Gillman Barracks off Alexandra Road and parts of Maju Forest and Clementi will be redeveloped. And analysts say the sites could yield up to 18,000 public homes in the coming years. Thousands of private homes are also expected. And Alexandra Anand takes us through the changes.
Gillman Barracks has long been one of Singapore's best-known arts and lifestyle destinations. But the writing has been on the wall in recent years. Plans to redevelop the site for residential uses were first announced in 2024. Since then, planners have been studying the site's ecology and heritage to decide where to build and what to preserve. Let's zoom in. This is the future development area. It spans about 40 hectares along Alexandra Road, just north of the upcoming Balaya estate on the former Keppel Club site, and right beside Labrador Park MRT station. It will see both private and public housing. But the site's location is valuable in other ways too. It has long served as an important ecological link for animals to move between these three green spaces. Key corridors will therefore be retained to maintain that connectivity and protect wildlife in the area. Some 25 buildings are also expected to be preserved. Of the 86 in the area, these have been singled out for their heritage significance. One analyst expects public flats here to fall under the prime model, with buildings that could rise to more than 30 stories.
The design for the Gillman Barracks, where the greenery, the nature is as a central spine, we have seen that being so-called designed for Lentor area as well as for the Holland Plains area. So it is something that is tested before and perhaps it's being replicated over in Gillman Barracks too.
A new public housing estate will also be built in Clementi, on the site of the current Maju Forest. Now, the area has been zoned for residential development since the 1980s. As part of the plans, around 8 hectares of the forest will be retained. New nature trails are also being planned, linking the area to the rail corridor. It's among factors that could drive strong demand.
This is also in a mature estate, and it is just across the upcoming Cross Island Line station, and there are plenty of educational institutions around, and the resale home prices in Clementi have already touched 1 million, and in certain cases exceed quite a benchmark price as well. So additional subsidies will have to be offered. That's why we think that this would likely be a plus housing.
The public has until 6 August to give feedback on the plans for both sites.
Environmental studies for the proposed housing sites at Gillman Barracks and Sunset Way recommend retaining key habitats and ecological corridors to reduce the impact on biodiversity. Authorities say the measures could still be refined after public feedback before construction begins. Nature groups say one way to strengthen the plans is to improve wildlife connectivity, as Natalie Ong reports.
It's taken over 3 decades for this forest in Clementi to grow back along the former Jurong Railway line. But around 15 hectares, or 2/3 of Maju Forest, will soon make way for public housing. Maju Forest has long been recognised by nature groups as being ecologically significant. While it's been slated for redevelopment under the URA Master Plan, the decision to go ahead with plans has come as a disappointment to some conservationists. They say that this green patch is more than just a green patch. It also serves as an ecological connector for animals to move between green spaces. To reduce the impact on wildlife, an environmental impact assessment recommends retaining about 8 hectares of the site. An environmental monitoring and management plan will be implemented and includes phased site clearance to give animals time to move away. With those measures in place, the study expects long-term biodiversity impact to range from minor negative to no significant impact. In terms of biodiversity though, what can be found here? What calls this place home?
Hear the call, right? A lot of interesting birds. This forest is also a stronghold of straw-headed bubu, which is a critically endangered bird.
Around 286 plant species and 113 fauna species were recorded within the study area. Nature groups say protecting how wildlife moves through the landscape is just as important as protecting the habitat itself.
Look into the connectivity, from Clementi Forest to this Maju Forest and to Tutak Forest. Make sure it's a viable nature corridor all the way to Bukit Batok. I think that's critical.
Another concern, displaced animals potentially becoming roadkill. The National Parks Board says future residents will receive guidelines on coexisting responsibly with wildlife, alongside landscaping measures aimed at reducing animals straying into residential areas. Maju Forest isn't the only green space facing redevelopment. At Gillman Barracks, a smaller patch of around 10 hectares of forest along Telok Blangah Hill Park will also be cleared. What kind of biodiversity inhabits this space, and are there any species here that are of particular importance?
So I think there's at least some 170 odd species that inhabits this area. We're talking about this fauna. Different species from near-threatened to critically endangered animals that live in this space. Examples such as the strider boo-boo, we have the long-tailed parakeet, the violet cuckoo, even the changeable hawk eagle that actually live in this space and use this space as well.
Authorities plan to have a 30-metre ecological corridor and phased forest clearance to help wildlife continue moving through the area. So now we're walking alongside the HDB blocks in Telok Blangah. When this patch of forest is gone, how do you see wildlife behaviour changing?
I think majority of the wildlife will then move to the central spine of Gillman Barracks, and it would be a bit of a squeeze for them, given there's only 30 metres as a connectivity, and we're assuming every animal moves towards the area.
He believes a wider ecological corridor would better support animal movement.
Gillman Barracks was built in the 1930s to house British servicemen and their families. Since then, it has taken on many different roles, with many of its buildings making way for new housing. One historian says Gillman Barracks' significance lies in the many chapters of history it represents. Muhammad Bahajjaj finds out what makes parts of the site worth preserving.
If these walls could talk, they would speak of colonial rule, war and independence. Built in 1935, Gillman Barracks was constructed for British servicemen and their families.
Gillman is quite a special camp, I think, because it's to the southern side and relating to the Navy especially. And the buildings are designed not in the earlier period where you see in Dempsey and Sentosa. It's in the 1930s, so there's a bit of modernism that comes in.
It was also one of the last outposts to fall to the Japanese during World War II. Many of the original 1930s buildings still stand today.
Now, I'm here in what used to be a British military institution back in the 1930s, where things like teaching were carried out in some of these corridors. Now, one expert I spoke to said that what's unique about this building is its monumental and columned approach to how architecture was done in the military, and also how the British were experimenting with less costly material like reinforced concrete. Made in the 1930s, it was a sign of a transition towards a more modern approach to military architecture, signaling a new era of style and construction.
After the British military withdrew in 1971, the Singapore Armed Forces took over the site for military training and transport operations until the 90s. The new millennium saw the site transformed into an arts and lifestyle cluster. Yet another change will reshape the area. Professor Ho believes housing could give Gillman Barracks a new lease of life.
With housing coming in, to me, it will really revitalize the place. It will also bring back life to some of these buildings. And then, obviously, the historical and the heritage significance of these buildings can be demonstrated when people use the building for other purposes.
He also proposes using plaques and QR codes to help visitors understand the site's history. He adds the site should integrate into the community through art galleries, F&B options and commercial offerings, so it remains a vibrant part of everyday life.